So week 3 of the 2023 NFL season was characterized by embarrassing losses all across the Sunday slate. We're talking about underdogs pulling the upset, big blowouts that some were expected, some not so expected, and then just some final scores that made you look and say, wait a minute, is that a real score right there? There were 3 games that stood out in particular. And I guess we'll go from the order of the least embarrassing to the most embarrassing, but still embarrassing, was the first one being Cowboys at the Cardinals. You know, Cowboys were 10-point favorites in Arizona against the Cardinals, who everyone expects to be tanking this year, and they end up just really trailing for almost the entire game. You know, the Cardinals just really put it on that Dallas defense, running the ball, throwing the ball, just couldn't really be stopped. Game and final score ended up being 28-16. You know, watching this game, there were just these moments where the Cowboys seemed like, okay, they'll start to turn things on now, and it just never happened, with the Cardinals putting that, that final touchdown drive to really sort of seal the game away in the fourth quarter. And yeah, Dallas's defense, which had been looking terrific the first 2 games, not so terrific in this one. Part of that is the fact that they unfortunately lost Trayvon Diggs during the week at practice, where he tore his ACL, out for the season. Definitely going to hurt the secondary and defense in general, just because Trayvon Diggs is one of the most electric corners in the NFL when it comes to generating turnovers and all that. It's going to put a lot of pressure on Stephon Gilmore now. But even without the passing game, which obviously, Diggs would have helped with that, Dallas could not stop the Cardinals' running game. When that Dallas defense isn't historically great like it had been those first 2 games, it puts a lot of pressure on Dak Prescott, and there's been a large enough sample size on Dak Prescott to show that, in sort of big moments, and the guy's just in general very inconsistent, and he showed that inconsistency in this game, having his first turnover, what will probably be first of many turnovers throughout the season. Yeah, but games like this happen in the NFL when you got big favorites, especially on the road. Can't always guarantee that they're going to deliver and whatnot through. It's just the ebbs and flows of the NFL season. They're going to have to pick it up because got some big games coming up. Got the Patriots, and then you got the San Francisco 49ers in week 5. Huge games right there. So Dallas's big tests are still yet to be seen. But a game against the Arizona Cardinals, despite being in Arizona, was not supposed to be one of those tests. But like I said, that's the kind of natural flow of a football season, losing games that you're favored in, especially on the road. Another embarrassing loss was the Chicago Bears at the Kansas City Chiefs, and for whatever will be known as the Taylor Swift game, as the Chiefs ended up winning this game 41-10. They were up 41-0 at one point until the Bears ended up getting, some garbage, touchdowns and points in the final fourth quarter when the game was clearly out of reach and whatnot. Yeah, and this game was characterized by Taylor Swift in the press box, having the time of her life, watching her new man, Travis Kelce, just, to continue to play well, watch that Chiefs offense play well, and no shortage of so many puns, Taylor Swift puns throughout the day, throughout the week. And whenever Kelce scores or the Chiefs do anything, all that kind of stuff. What continues to be just an unbelievable year for Taylor Swift. Between the Eras concert, the movie that's going to be coming out in a few weeks, and now obviously the big publicity with her new man, Travis Kelce, arguably the greatest tight end of all time, now scoring on and off the field. Then you see the 2 of them walking out together after the game's done. Yeah, a whole lot of stuff, which is why this will be called the Taylor Swift game. But turning the attention to the team that should be embarrassed, the Chicago Bears, which was just really the end of just what was a terrible week for the Bears. They were coming off being 0-2, not really playing well throughout the season. Yeah, Justin Fields, who had to walk back comments where he apparently, where he kind of did blame the coaching for his poor play. You had the defensive coordinator, he had to resign over some scandal. It's kind of, that kind of stuff. And then you got stuff like the equipment apparently got stolen, all the stuff in the coverage in terms of why the team isn't playing well, the different controversies. And then they get embarrassed in the Taylor Swift game. Like I said, down 41-0 at one point. Justin Fields struggled again. 99 total yards, 50% completion percentage. Yeah, not good. And I don't think anyone expected the Bears to be a Super Bowl contender this year. But this was the year they were definitely supposed to show improvement. With Justin Fields being in his 3rd year, it's time to start moving and really showcasing things. And it's just not good. He doesn't look good at all this season, not really progressing. I do think a lot of it, ironically, is kind of what he's mentioned earlier this week. Coaching. I just think when you got a young quarterback, you got to get yourself an offensive coach to really get in that young quarterback's ear show him how to do things, how to sort of maximize his potential, putting points on the board, utilizing his skill set. Defensive coaches just don't have this kind of mentality. We're seeing this with how Belichick is treating Mac Jones. There's just not that kind of sensibilities in terms of how to really generate offense and make the most out of a skill set. We're even seeing this with a coach as great as Mike Tomlin. I don't know if Kenny Pickett is really living up to what he could be in terms of utilizing his skill sets and just putting all the tools together. And that's very evident right now in Chicago, to where, they're not playing well on offense. They got a defensive coach. And even the defense hasn't been great. They just gave up 41 points to the Chiefs, which, it's the Chiefs, but still got to put up a better showing than that. So this was definitely an embarrassing showcase. And like I said, what would ever be known as the Taylor Swift game. But no loss was more embarrassing this year, or probably in the last few decades, than the final score in the Denver Broncos at the Miami Dolphins game, with the Dolphins winning 70-20. Yes, 70-20. I was at work. It had been a long morning. I had to be there at 6 a.m. And, we had the games off and on in the break room. Ended up checking the final score towards the end of my shift. And I see that, what? Did I just see 70? A 70 burger? Me and my friends were looking at it. It's like, yeah, 70. We knew the Miami Dolphins offense was good, but 70 points? It's rare in the NFL to get to 50. Even 40 is kind of like not all that super common. But 50 is super rare. I ain't never seen 60 before, but 70, I think it's the second highest scoring game of all time, with the highest scoring one being a game that happened in the 1960s. I can't remember what the team was that did score the 72, but that's a completely different era, 1960. We're talking about modern era, even with all the rule changes of less physicality. 70 points, that's unbelievable. Miami Dolphins definitely are the most electric team in the NFL right now. Are they the best team in the AFC? So I think you still got to give that to the Chiefs. In terms of being the most fun to watch, definitely the Miami Dolphins. And all the woke losers that tried to keep on telling Tua Tagovailoa to retire in the offseason, not looking so smart right now. I'm glad that he's having fun, live up to his potential. Again, he's got an offensive coach who's now can really show him how to do things, really maximize that potential in his skill set. It also helps to have some unbelievable offensive weapons. Tyreek Hill has just been spectacular so far this season. Miami Dolphins, super fun. But of course, the more fun story is always in the losing locker room with the Denver Broncos. My goodness, what a dumpster fire. They had a terrible season last year. They come in this year trying to make things better. You get Sean Payton to sort of, he's definitely a coach who knows how to do things, Super Bowl winning coach, but, definitely a highlighted great coach over the last decade or so when he was in the NFL. But this is a situation I'm just not sure he can really fix. It's not looking great. Russell Wilson ain't looking great. Didn't have a great game again. I'm not sure how much longer he's going to last throughout the season, because I don't think Sean Payton's going to really want to go down with the ship. Sean Payton in the post-game press conference, seeming super frustrated. Rightfully so. Everyone, you lose 70-20. That's not a score that should happen. 50-point margin, let alone giving up 70 points, is unbelievable. I really do think Sean Payton made a mistake when it came to taking this Denver Broncos job. Clearly he wanted that Chargers job. He was holding out for it. He was in LA working for Fox Sports in terms of the pregame NFL coverage. And I think that Chargers job is going to open up eventually. It probably will open up eventually, given how they've looked so far this season, even though they did win a close game versus the Vikings, which maybe they should or should not have won. But that job's going to open up sooner or later. And I just think taking this Denver Broncos job where you're tied down to Russell Wilson for another handful of years because of that huge contract, that's the thing. They ain't getting off that anytime soon. The roster may not be as good as they thought it would. You're in the same division as Patrick Mahomes. The Broncos, it's just not looking good. It hasn't looked good ever since they won the Super Bowl and Peyton Manning retired. And this season, you're down. You're 0-3 in what's going to be a loaded AFC. I don't really think there's much coming back from that. And all that talk about, how bad things were last season, well, it's looking so far even worse this season, even though I don't think it's all coaching. It's a conduit of a lot of events. So those are definitely the three most embarrassing losses for teams this week. But there were more embarrassing losses also. You're talking about the Baltimore Ravens losing at home to the Colts. Gardner Minshew, the backup quarterback, coming in, beating Lamar Jackson and the Ravens in Baltimore. That team hasn't really looked as good as people thought it would so far this season. Kind of inconsistent, not really living up to what they're supposed to be on offense, even though, you do have some reasons like Odell Beckham Jr. not being in there and just a new offense in general, but you still shouldn't really be losing to the Colts in Baltimore. Other embarrassing losses: Texans beating the Jaguars in Jacksonville. Jacksonville just hasn't really been living up so far to sort of what they showed at the end of last season. They got to really pick things up. And even in college football, regarding the highlighted game, that the game everyone wanted to see is always going to be the game featuring Colorado, Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, his team playing the Oregon Ducks, and they got annihilated. Now, this one is kind of expected. Oregon's a really good team, really good program, and of course, Colorado's injured with Travis Hunter. Probably the things that should be the most embarrassed isn't even Colorado. Should have been the Colorado mascot. When he came out, tried to do the whole thing, the duck mascot, when he tried to come out and sort of mock Colorado with the hat, with the shades, mashing the primetime clock, and ended up losing his head. Yeah, not so great. So week 3 in general, a whole lot of embarrassment for a whole lot of teams across the NFL and even college football, to be honest.